Transworld Entertainment is the company that ended up taking over Empire Pictures in 1988, May of 88. And this is one of the founders. This is a picture, Moishe Diamante. And this guy he's an Israeli producer. He's still alive. He's 76 years old. And what he's doing now is basically he's kind of like Jean-Claude Van Damme's manager slash executive producer on like almost all of his movies. So there is life after Transworld went under. What happened was they started this company. Here's his partner. This is the only known picture I found of Edward Sarlouis. He was born in the Netherlands, and he had a company called Continental Motion Pictures that he ran with. Now, I've heard two different things. One was his sister, and the other one was his daughter, Helen Sarlouis. But Edward Sarlouis, Hans Sarlouis, he passed away in 2010. So this is the guy that introduced Charles Band to the Credit Lyonnais Bank. But anyway, his partner was Moishe Diamante. Edward, if that's how you pronounce it, he's Dutch. I don't know if that's exactly how they pronounce it, but they were the partners in Transworld Entertainment. So this is Transworld. You're going to know this logo when you see it. This was on tons of videotapes back in the day. Okay. So that company is owned by, the library is owned by MGM now. So what happened was basically, 1983, Moishe Diamante and Edward Sarlouis. This is on Wikipedia. I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version of this. Moishe Diamante started a post-production facility, and then he was the first guy to put like subtitles on videos. So he went from there and he started producing and releasing these B movies on videotape with Edward Sarlouis, and then they started making their own movies. And the bigger ones they made, they would release at the movie theaters, and then they had a video deal with Media Home Entertainment, which formerly was owned by Charles Band when it was Media Home Entertainment. Okay, so what happens is, this is a really messed up story because Charles Band knew Edward Sarlouis when he was a little kid in Italy. And Helen was a lot younger than Charles Band. It's in his book. And Charles Band was going along, and he was financing his movies with loans and investors and stuff like that. And Edward Sarlouis met him at a film festival, and he asked him, how are you financing your movies? And he says, are you just doing it from these film markets where you're selling some rights here at a time? Or do you have a bank credit? And Charles Band, in his book, he said that he just financing them through the film festivals, pre-sales and everything, and then borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. So Edward Sarlouis goes, no, Charles, you have to go and meet Hans Hoffman, who ran Credit Lyonnais Bank, and he was basically the king of finance and independent film back in the 70s, 80s, and part of the 90s. So he gets him an introduction to Franz Hoffman, and off he's running, and then they're financing Empire. And then Charles Band kept doing more pre-sales and everything, and then when a lot of his projects failed at the show, or they weren't getting the video money, they already sold it for a lump sum, that's when they got into trouble. And what ended up happening is Edward Sarlouis called him up and he says, I want to meet with you. And here he blindsides Charles Band with, he says, hey, the bank is mad and they're willing to let you walk away, but you have to sign away everything. Now, how would you feel if that happened to you from a guy that you knew when you were a little kid that kind of seems like he was a friend, like a family friend, and he goes and screws you saying this? And then on top of it, After Charles Band talks to his lawyers and his family, and he's like, yeah, there's no other thing to do but take the deal. And he was able to get a couple of movies and a couple of projects out of them. He didn't walk away empty-handed. Edward Sarlui, they announced that him and Moishe Diamante, their Transworld Entertainment, they're going to rename it Epic Productions, or they form a new company. There's a lot of shell companies involved with this stuff. So if somebody goes bankrupt, not everything is tied up. So anyway, Edward Sarlui, he becomes the new head of Empire. When they take it over, it becomes a subsidiary of Epic Productions, and they're charged with finishing the movies that Charles Band haven't finished yet, like The Caller, Deadly Weapon, Robot Jox, Spellcaster, Curse 4, which was the Catacombs movie. So they had a lot of movies that were done or in various stages of production. They mostly had to do post-production on them. Transformations, stuff like that. But yeah, so a family friend blindsides you and takes your business. That's pretty bad. And Charles Band said that after, he moved on a year after Empire folded, he had the Paramount deal, and he went and Full Moon was born. And he says he would see Edward Sarlui at the film festivals, and he says he'd avoid talking to him. And he's like, he knew his venture wasn't going to last long because he said he wasn't a creative type. And what ended up happening was the bank took over Epic. So Credit Lyonnais took over Epic. What they ended up doing was they covered up a bad loan. Like Empire owed $27 million to Credit Lyonnais Bank. Okay, if you take away the price of the Dino De Laurentiis studio, Dino Sira, that he bought, it was basically like they only owed like maybe anywhere from, if they would have taken that out of the picture, they would have owed anywhere from $7 to $5 million. Okay, so that's not that bad for a movie company. But that studio really hampered the bills and everything. And so anyway, what Credit Lyonnais knew that this $27 million loan was bad, and it was gonna tank. So they wanted to cover it up. So they go to Edward Sarlui. They offer him a deal. We're going to give you a $200 million line of credit. We're going to fold Empire into your new venture. And then we're going to give them another library of 200 movies. Supposedly, some were supposed to be from Dino De Laurentiis' catalog before the De Laurentiis Entertainment Group. So this is like what they were doing. The bank was playing basically 3-card monte, where they were shuffling hands all around the place. And what happened was Moishe Diamante and Edward Sarlui basically figured out after a bit that they were going to get scammed, that the bank was covering up the bad Empire loan with giving them money. And then they wanted out and they had to sue to get their money. And then after they sued, the bank took over the library for Transworld Entertainment and Epic Productions. And you could go online. Wikipedia's got the entire list of movies. I don't want to go through the whole list because we'll be here forever. But they did a lot of B movies. They did some were mid-budget movies. A really good one I recommend is I, Madman. And their other most famous movie is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So that always gets played, and it always has merchandise and spin-off stuff. But so when they walked away from the deal after like about 2 years in court, Moishe Diamante became basically just an indie producer, and he was producing a lot of Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, and Edward Sarlui kind of disappeared. I mean, he really didn't do much after that, and then he passed away in 2010. So, that's a really bad deal. Like, you're helping somebody out that was kind of like a family friend, and you take over their business. And did he set them up? Who knows? He he would be the only guy to be able to know about it. Him and Franz Hoffman, and both of them are passed away. So Charles Band was basically confused and really upset with this, but he's like, I didn't dwell on it. He's like, Empire would have went under eventually, even without Mr. Sarloui's help. But to steal your business and everything, yeah, it's bad. And these guys had a good thing going with the videos and everything, and you could tell from their business practices that a lot of their employees were starting to leave because Transworld was selling the bigger budgeted movies to like Media Home Entertainment and RCA Columbia, with they had a Columbia Pictures Triumph releasing deal to release their movies at the show. And a lot of their employees were like, we could do this ourselves, So that was kind of hard, where the company basically had given up their assets to others for a quick buck. So they didn't want to grow their business. So that's rough too. But very interesting company, Transworld Entertainment. And basically they took over Empire. They finished what movies they had. They put them out. Robot Jox is probably that Ghost Town and Buy and Sell were released at the show. Everything else that they put out went right to video. So there was maybe 3 or 4 theatrical releases that from Empire that they put at the show, and everything else was just regulated to video. So they kind of gave up on their movies, which is kind of rough too, because you're buying a catalog, even if it's with somebody else's money. So that's the story of Transworld Entertainment. Wikipedia has a really good filmography on them. And also, there's 2 Transworld Entertainments, just so people know. You have to look at the film company. The other one is owns Sam Goody and Coconuts. That's the corporate name, or at least it was, for the chain of record stores and DVD stores and stuff like that that used to be in the malls. So a lot of times you put in Transworld Entertainment, that comes up. So be specific and put in, after Transworld Entertainment, put in the film company and you'll get the right response.